In this tutorial, I want to demonstrate some of the advanced capabilities of Camtasia that will help you build your final homework project for this course. Specifically, we'll look at how to capture webcam video, how to import external video, how to separate audio and video tracks and then synchronize them, and then how to use this mysterious split tool, as well as the exciting part, color keying, how to remove a color from a background so that the talking head instructor appears layered on top, just like we do in our instructional videos that you watch for this course. So here's how we do this. Let's start off with a really simple example. Let's say I want to record the PowerPoint presentation that I already gave on the cloud publishing video. You've already seen this, but this is kind of a behind the scenes look at how that was put together. And the choice that I'm going to have to make in this is to decide where I want my video from. Do I want to record a webcam video, or do I want to record with a better camera and then import that video? Those are two choices that I have to make here. You know how to do a regular screen capture. You would just come up here and click on the record the screen button with PowerPoint playing in the background and start talking and clicking, and you're done. Well, in this case, we've got one more click to make, and that is in the record camera tab here. I'll go ahead and close that out. I would have to choose my camera. So you can see me right there. And this is a USB camera, the Logitech, and I'm in my office right now. Obviously it doesn't have very good lighting, so this would not be the most optimal place to shoot this particular video. But I just want you to see how we actually set this up. You have to choose the camera, the correct camera. In some cases you might have multiple. Some of you might have a laptop that has a built-in USB camera or a built-in camera, and then you might also have a USB camera that plugs in. This Logitech is a great camera, but it's not as good as the camera that we have in the studio. So that's where I typically do most of my shooting. But I could very easily just now go click on the start recording button and off I go. I would have a PowerPoint video, and then I would have a separate webcam video that would be placed down here on tracks 1 and 2. But I don't want to do that. For me, I want to shoot using video that's much more that's much more visually high definition. And so I've got a better camera in the studio that I use, and I already shot that. And now I want to mix these. Okay, webcam, shooting with your webcam is great. It simplifies everything because everything is nice and synchronized. But I want to show you how you would actually take camera video shot, let's say with your cell phone, and adding it to your screen capture PowerPoint. Your first step, of course, is to record both sources. So I wouldn't be using this here at all. So I would actually get rid of that. I wouldn't touch that. And I would queue up my PowerPoint, and then I would set up my camera so that it's shining on me. Well, I guess the camera doesn't really shine, but you know what I mean. Use a well-lit room, all the stuff that we've already talked about for lighting, and then press record on your cell phone, and then press record on Camtasia, and then start shooting. And this is sort of what you end up with, okay? You end up with one track down here that's dedicated to your screen capture. Actually, in this case, that was system audio that I also captured, so I don't need that. I'm going to delete that. But you end up with one track that's dedicated to your screen capture. You then also end up with a video file that you shot on your cell phone. And you need to import that by simply finding it wherever you saved it on your computer and then dragging that into the timeline as well. Once both of these media assets are together, your next step is to make sure the sizes, the resolutions are equivalent, and then to synchronize them. Clearly, we have a mismatch here, and this is not optimal. You typically want to capture at the same settings to maximize quality, but it's always okay to capture much larger than you need and then shrink down, provided that your computer can handle it. For example, in my case, my computer monitor is set to 1920 by 1080, so that was the resolution that I used for the background PowerPoint. The video camera, however, was set to 1280 by 720, which is the default minimal HD standard. And I do that deliberately so that my computer can edit it better, and you should do that as well. So how do we put these together, or how do I resize this? First of all, I can simply move this around, and webcam video is the same way. It would appear up here and you can simply resize. Now I will say that some webcams don't shoot in 16:9. It might be something that's more rectangular. And if that's the case, then you may have to stretch it really big so that it fills the screen, and it may zoom in a little too much, or you may look a little warped or not scaled appropriately. And that's tough when that happens. You just have to kind of do the best you can, or you reduce it to a smaller section of video and just place it in a certain section of the screen. That's an option that you have. Mayer, of course, would remind us that we don't want to overload the learner visually, so don't do too much. But nevertheless, I'm going to resize this so that it covers up the whole screen. So now everything matches. And from this point here, I now need to synchronize, because if I were to press the play button here, the audio in the video is not going to match the audio in the screen capture. And this is where we have a really cool little trick that we can learn. And I'm going to zoom into the timeline here just a little bit. Okay, do you see this spike right here? And you see that spike right there? That's actually where I clapped my hands. And I'll show you. I'll move to it right there. Okay, whack, whack. Okay, why do you do that? What's the point of a clap track? Remember those clappers that we've all seen? Their whole point to using those is so that we can synchronize. And see this section right here? This is where the audio on the screen capture heard the clap, and this is where it heard it on the camera. So if I get these synchronized, then I'm in business. And it's really, really easy to do that. I might have to zoom out just a hair, and I'm going to trim back here. You already know how to trim. Trim back, to right about there. And I'm going to slide them up so it looks like they're almost about even. I'm going to lasso them and shove them back over here to the beginning. And then I'm going to zoom in just a little bit and try to tweak that just a little bit more. Whoops, have to deselect. Then get them lined up perfectly right there. Okay, that straight edge is what you're looking for. And at that point, I know that both the camera video and the screen capture video are totally synchronized. And now, if I were to play through it, you would hear everything at the same time. I'm not going to force you to listen to that. You've already had to hear it probably too many times as well. But now I know that both of these tracks are timed identically. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put my playhead right where I want it to begin, and I'm going to trim that one up there, and I'm going to trim this one up here. And now they're totally synchronized. And I just have to make sure that I always move them together. Whatever you do, don't do this. Don't move one track and then move the other track, because you might not get them to line up properly. So I'm going to undo that. Always move those tracks together. Does that make sense? Something else that may be helpful later on is knowing how to separate audio and video. And this is really useful when you don't need the audio, when you don't need the talking head video on the entire time. And you really don't. You only want the talking video to be on for a few seconds at a time as needed. It just kind of pops up and pops off, just like regular cutaway footage. So what am I talking about? Well, if I wanted to, let's say, talk, and then disappear right about here, I would have to select that track, and this is the video, the camera track that I have right here. And I would come up and grab this split tool. This is analogous to the old razors that we used to use in the old days. And if I click split, watch what happens. Bloop. I now cut that, and I can trim it out so that I can see the PowerPoint that's underneath. Remember, here's the PowerPoint track right here. And this is the video. So when the playhead starts off, blah, 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 and then bam, we go straight to the PowerPoint. Simple enough. So make sure you trim. But here's another tip. If you've got gaps in your timeline and you've got camera video and screen capture video, make sure you move everything together. Lasso everything so that it's selected. Don't do this. Don't just get those two because that's all that's in view, and then move them. If you do, then this is going to be totally out of sync. So you have to be very, very careful. Always lasso everything. And it can be tricky sometimes because you might be, let's say, zoomed in real tight here, and you might forget Let me see, let me get this out of view here. There we go. This happens a lot, and you might forget, oh wow, I'm going to select that one and select that one, and then move those around together. Well, guess what? You just threw everything out of sync because you forgot to select this. So let me undo that. Keep those together, and just pay very close attention to your zoom tools, and always lasso everything and move it as one big block. Now, of course, this isn't very attractive, having the video blocking the actual PowerPoint. If you want the instructor to display on top of the actual screen capture, then you need to color key out all of this stuff here. Now, this is an advanced topic, and it is not required in any way for your project. But if you want to tackle this, here's how it's done. The first step is to select the clip where you want to apply this color key, where you want to remove this color. The second step is to go to the Visual Properties tab and click the box that says Remove Color. You may have to scroll down a little bit so you can see everything. With that box checked, in the Color pull-down menu, click on Select Color, and you get this really cool hourglass. Then come up here right next to the hair, typically is where you have the most trouble, and click. And when you click that, you'll see the background disappear. And then you can come up here and play around with these settings some until it looks better. And notice that I'm off to I'm covering up some of the content here. Obviously, that's not appropriate. A couple things that we can do there. Number one, I can crop out some of these edges. I have a crop tool right there, and I can squeeze in that way. And see that tab up there? That's a legacy space in the studio where there is no green screen. So I'm going to crop that out of the way, and then I can simply move over a little bit, get it lined back up, and now I'm not blocking the content anymore. So that looks pretty good. But again, you'll just have to play around with these settings, and I'll warn you ahead of time, if you use a wrinkly sheet, it's going to look awful because there are going to be little pieces of shadow everywhere. It's just not going to work very well. So again, don't try this unless you have a solid colored wall, preferably something that is totally different from anything you're wearing and not flesh tone. If it is, then color keying isn't going to work. Green screen and blue green and blue tend to be the typical colors associated with color keying. You can color key out anything if there's enough contrast, but most people seem to appear a lot better on camera after the color key if they are not wearing anything that resembles a color of the key that's being used, the wall paint, in other words. And don't even bother using a sheet unless you can get it absolutely perfectly straight, because it's going to have some shadows in there. So with that all said, you can see now what we've got. Blah 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 blah, talking head, and then it goes back to the PowerPoint, and then back up here it would go back here. So I'd actually have to redo the key effect there as well. I'll do it one more time for you just so you can see. You select the clip, click on Visual Properties, click on Remove a Color, and it's actually applying the same effects we had earlier. Don't forget, you gotta move it around. So typically what happens in a production like this, you're going to have segments of talking head video and then segments of just PowerPoint, or for some of you it might be the screen capture of a software demonstration or of a website tutorial. Whatever it is that you're trying to teach, whatever your content is, that's what's been captured down here in this first channel. And the instructor video up here would have to be chopped up so that it appears when you need it and it disappears when you don't. And that's the purpose of this split tool. You simply put the playhead where you want to get rid of it, let's say right there, and then trim back the next segment. And so you end up with a timeline that looks something like this. Now I'm just doing this arbitrarily here just so you can see, but you end up with a cadence that has talking head video, content, talking head video, content, talking head video, content. Do you get the point? This is really important to understand. The video, the talking head shouldn't be there the whole time. That's too distracting for the learner. You need to have temporal contiguity you need to have spatial contiguity, and they need to work in harmony according to Mayer's principles. And that means that we're not using them both together at the same time the whole time. You have to break it up. And when you do this correctly, your timeline ends up looking like this: blah, 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 disappear, blah, 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 disappear. So these are the video, the camera video essentially becomes cutaway footage, just like what you did in your earlier assignments. So I hope that this is going to help you understand a little bit of a strategy that you might use for creating your homework project files, your final learning object. Keep in mind that color keying is not required. Whoops, looks like I missed that. I forgot to crop that there. Let me grab that handle. I have to turn it on and then crop it out. There we go. Something like that. Okay. Anyway, these are some of the advanced strategies and functionalities that are available in Camtasia when you're combining camera video plus screen capture video. There's still a lot more that Camtasia can do, and that's simply beyond the scope of this particular class. For example, we can import other kinds of media, we can assign quiz options, we can do captions and other advanced interactivity, but we just don't have time to do that in this course. So your goal again for the final project is to integrate talking head video with screen capture video. And just remember, you want to break it up so that there's a cadence here: talking head, content, talking head, content, etc. Get a rhythm, and only you can determine what the most effective rhythm is going to be. But typically, there's no rule, but typically you have anywhere from 5 to 20 seconds of video, maybe a hair longer, and then it goes to content. But you're just going to have to find whatever rhythm seems to be appropriate for you. And again, don't forget, nobody's saying you have to use the chroma key technique. You may simply want to just find a nice backdrop that looks appropriate and go ahead and shoot your video there and not even bother with chroma keying. It's purely voluntary, but I know that it's a popular feature, and it may be something that you'll have fun experimenting with. Anyway, that's it for this tutorial. Can't wait to see your homework projects that you come up with. And as always, if you have any questions, please post them in the discussion forum. See you soon.